Thank you for tuning in to Recharge Your Life, how to free yourself from the hidden traumas of the 5Ds. What are they? Those are disease, divorce, deaths in the family, loss, grief, debt perhaps. Maybe you've had some financial debt that you're working through or have worked through in your life, and just disappointments. Things just didn't work out for you. And today we have Dr. Kellee Rutley, who is going to be speaking about weight loss and healthy living through challenging times. We've all had them, and Dr. Kellee is going to share about that today. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Kellee Rutley. Not only is she a friend of mine, Dr. Kellee Rutley is a chiropractor and fat loss expert. She uses a combination of weight loss and inflammation reducing strategies based on each person's individuality and personality. Dr. Kellee knows that one size never fits all, so a personalized approach that allows us as much flexibility as possible, yet still getting maximum results is what she always aims for. A food intervention for weight loss might include a nutrient-rich ketogenic diet and a movement plan that will make both your muscle mass and joint integrity get better so you can be active and pain-free for life. So tune in here now as we speak with Dr. Kellee Rutley. Thank you so much, Dr. Rutley, for being here today. I know you have a tremendous background being a chiropractor and also really making huge changes in the lives of both men and women that you work with. So welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Phaedra. It's great to see you, by the way. And I really appreciate you having me on this series. So yes, I would love to share that with you. As you said, I am a chiropractor. However, what I found in my life, it seems to have just been written on my soul that what I would do with my life's work is I would help people lose weight so they could take their health back and take their life back. So here's what we know about that, right? Weight gain and obesity is probably the biggest contributor to so many chronic diseases. And I found when I was in my chiropractic clinic in a brick and mortar office, I remember getting to a place where I was like, I just felt like I can't wrap my arms around enough people. Like I just can't help enough people seeing one patient at a time. I could only see 7 people in a day or 14 people in a day max. So when I realized I need to wrap my arms around more people in this world, I decided to take my business online and really focus on weight loss and specifically fat loss from a perspective of, fat loss physiology. How does your body actually store fat? How does it release fat? Because you know what? People don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And, we are inundated with, information on the internet. So poor people are out there trying to figure it out themselves. And they don't need to, because there are people like me and people like you, who spent years and years and years in school and gone into massive amounts of student loan debt to learn it for them, right? So I approach weight loss or weight gain at the source. From a physiological perspective. And then I also address the emotions and the psychology of weight gain and weight loss, which I think is what you're really most interested on this series. People can find me online on my Facebook page and my website and learn everything that they can from me about the physiology of it and the science, but it's really the energy of weight gain and the psychology of it that I think is really, really important for people to get into the conversation about.
Absolutely. And I know you personally. We were both in a coaching program together, and I've seen you grow, and you've been through so many ups and downs as I have in life. But one of the most significant things how you've helped me, I have a dear friend, and she was really struggling with her weight and with her marriage and her self-esteem. And she is now working with you and doing such great things. She's lost so much weight. She's so empowered, and it's amazing. And at any age, this can really help people. So let's talk about, your experience with your own, if you're open to sharing your own traumas, maybe around, grief, loss, having a death in the family, debt. I'm sure going to chiropractic school, becoming a doctor, most doctors do tend to have debt when they come out. That's
right.
stressful. you know?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you know, and I love it's the 5 Ds, right? That
Yep.
you have listed. I was looking at those 5 Ds and I was like, I wonder which one Phaedra's going to want me to talk about. And then I realized I'm 53 now. Most of us have probably experienced all 5 of those Ds, if not at least 3 of them by now. And I know I certainly have. And when I think back to, you know, I think about the word trauma and, you know, what's traumatic to one person may be like a not a big deal to someone else. And I was thinking, you know, one of the biggest traumas that I experienced was a massive amount of debt when I graduated from chiropractic school. So I was a late bloomer as a personal fitness trainer, and then I didn't start chiropractic school till I was 30.
Okay.
And so by the time I graduated, it was right before the real estate market crashed. Do you remember 2008,
Mm-hmm.
2007, 2008? Well, my husband was in real estate, you know, and up until that point, you know, life was great. I graduated from school. Here's what I had, all the confidence in the world, right? I'm a new doctor. I've got a white coat. The student loan debt didn't bother me at all. We're living in the Bay Area. I'm like, there's a chiropractic patient on every corner. This is going to be no problem. And I just, you know, I was so in love with what I did that I didn't even consider, really, honestly, like the whole business aspect of it. I just had a huge amount of confidence. Well, you know, tsunamis hit, right? And it just wasn't one that we were expecting. And I know, you know, so many people in the country were affected by it, and, you know, to a degree, to a greater degree than we even were. But what it did for us, I mean, there were so many blessings on the other side of it.
On the other side, hindsight is 2020, but how were you feeling handling the trauma
Well, I'll
that
tell
right?
you, yeah, one of the biggest things that happened during that time was my husband was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which is autoimmune. And it was right during that time when it was all crumbling around us, you know, and we were working more hours and working harder and feeling more stress and getting concerned, you know, what is this going to mean for our family? Um, and all of a sudden he became very symptomatic and went through you know, lots of different diagnoses until they landed on psoriatic arthritis, autoimmune disease, and we
How
realized,
stressed was he? You know what I mean?
that's how stressed he was, right?
Well, could that be, you know, underneath the pain and underneath the illness, the disease, and that's what we're talking about. So gosh, yeah, this is a perfect picture of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had to make some hard decisions because, you know, we were looking at, gosh, I can't remember how old Scott was, but I was like just turning 40. I wasn't 40 yet. And, you know, so we were still young, and I'm looking at, you know, the possibility that my husband might choose, you know, I'm a natural practitioner. So my way of approaching that, it actually worked for him. By the way, he's doing great. But, you know, had he gone the traditional route, it was going to look like prednisone and methotrexate, which is chemotherapy, at a very young age, you know. And I was very aware that this was all stress induced, and I was experiencing it myself, obviously, you know, lack of sleep and things like that. So what we decided to do is completely turn our lives upside down. I had just opened a big office in the big Bay Area, lots of square footage, brand new, you know, brand new this, brand new that. I had my white jacket on, ready to rock and roll. And I got out of a 5-year lease by getting another chiropractor to take over the lease. So I got out of that 5-year commitment in the Bay Area. Yes. And I knew we needed to. I knew we needed to get out of the rat race for a while. And we moved up to Lake Tahoe, and we raised our daughter in the mountains in a very small community. I opened up a tiny, tiny, tiny practice. I remember I had like one little adjusting room, and then my desk was like a borrowed, you know, front desk from someone. And, you know, I just started working with one patient, and then two, and then three. And we lived in the mountains for several years. And my husband used all natural, he used chiropractic, acupuncture. We did cleanses and detoxes, far infrared saunas, and massage therapy, myofascial therapy, and body work like you do, Phaedra. And within a year, he was asymptomatic, which means he had no symptoms anymore. And he was at a point where he was having a hard time walking. So trauma, trauma from debt, trauma from, and a lot of people don't survive a lot of marriages don't survive those situations.
Mhm, mhm.
We know that financial stress is the number one contributor to divorce.
Well, for some, just I'm thinking of you. You're in the Bay Area. I need to make a change. So you
Yeah.
could be frozen, paralyzed, and do nothing, but you chose to fight it to make a difference. What was going on inside? What was that internal process, that mindset piece to help you get out of the stuck place you were
Well, here's the key. So for a little while we were frozen, right? Because we're in fight or flight, trauma, stress. I call it now, when you go into the bunker, I call it going into the bunker. It's like when something really traumatic happens, and I talk to women and men all the time, especially because I deal with, extra body weight, and extra body weight, extra body fat is a symptom. It's never, I don't want to say never to anything, but it's rarely the actual problem.
in?
Emotional eating isn't a problem, it's a symptom, right? So I call it going into the bunker. So when something first happens, we know how this works. You know it, you teach it, you're an expert in this, right? The amygdala flares up, you're in fight or flight, and your prefrontal cortex goes offline, and you cannot make good decisions in that state. So we went through a phase where we were kind of frozen, maybe about 6 months to a year. We were kind of on that like the autopilot. And then we got into problem solving mode. And I think we could only get into problem solving mode when we let ourselves, we kind of let go, to be honest. We kind of let go, and we're like, you know what? I think it's helpful to go, what's the worst case scenario? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? You lose your practice, you lose your house, you lose your this, you lose your that. But we had a daughter, a very young daughter who was only 3 at the time, and my husband was losing his health. So it really did come down to like, this is the worst case scenario. You're losing your health. So let's let it go. Let's get out of here, and let's just recoup and start all over again. And it was the best decision we ever made. Sometimes I think a message your audience might need to hear is sometimes great loss is not loss at all. It's just, it really is usually a new beginning. But when you're in the loss part, you can't see the new beginning yet.
Exactly. And I was that way with my car accident, which happened in 2008. And I almost died. So I used that as a resource. It's like, that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever faced. I survived. If I can survive that, I can survive anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like really feel into that. And so I like to take people to go back to a time where they were empowered, where they felt triumphant.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's just for a moment, just feeling that, it can really help you move through. But I love that you took action. And really to have the courage to literally leave the state even and move further away it's really huge. And I think people that they tend to get stuck in situations. And I find with people who have emotional or physical pain, who's I work with them, if they're in a marriage that's not serving them, if they're in a job that's not serving them, or they're in debt and then they're frozen and they're shut down, I say there's always a way.
Yeah, we call it what's under the under. So I have one of the doctors on my team. I just love having her on my team. She's a clinical psychologist, and she has her PhD in biostatistics. So it's like she's such an amazing resource. And what she calls it is what's under the under. So you have your symptoms, right? Like the weight gain is a symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to sleep, usually a symptom of something else. And then often we're aware of what we think the problem is. So let's take an example that I'm actually in right now. As you notice, my background is a little funky. I'm a little dark. I'm at my father-in-law's house. He passed away on Monday. Today's only Friday, and he was on hospice.
Wow.
And he passed away here in the house, and we were with him. And so, you could say, I wasn't sleeping very well for a couple of nights. My husband has been with him for several years, taking care of him while he's managing his real estate, business at the same time. And you could look at it and you say, well, there's a reason for the weight gain. There's a reason for the sleeplessness. There's a reason for that, the skin rashes or all the stuff that goes on. It's like, grief. Well, but grief is this blanket statement. I kind of think of grief like a fibromyalgia diagnosis. It's kind of like, well, you kind of have like everything, right? It's like a shotgun diagnosis. So it's like, well, what's under the under? So like, what's really beneath the loss that you're experiencing? And I call it, it's like often a radical shift in your self-perception, right? So whenever we go through something that's very traumatic, it forces us, and this isn't always a bad thing, it just feels bad.
Right. Yes.
And one of my clients, Melissa, loved this. She says, just because it's hard doesn't make it wrong. And when you're forced to look at what is really being challenged here, and sometimes it's just our perception of ourselves. And I say just like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. It's like when I was going through a massive financial crisis, and it was bad. It was as bad as it gets. And I was a doctor. I thought these things don't line up. I'm a doctor, which should equal success in all areas of life, right? And it's like sometimes when we shed our identities, we have to really evaluate our self-perception. We get the opportunity to shed some identities that are actually keeping us from being truly happy. And for some women, it's shedding the identity of wife, right? Wife, doctor, girlfriend, mother, whatever that identity is that we become so attached to, it's so hard to let go of sometimes. And I think that's one of the things you and I are seeing a lot, right now in our circle, is that that desire to shed an identity and the resistance to do it at the same time.
Can you speak more about some reflection inward? What can someone say to themselves to really do that? Just tune into their self-perception and maybe make some shifts. What do you teach your clients?
Yeah. Well, I can actually show you what I teach them, because I don't believe you can think your way out of things. So remember we talked about, and you teach this, I know you're clear on this, but your audience might need a reminder. The fight or flight response, the amygdala, that primitive brain is like firing, going fight or flight, fight or flight. When your prefrontal cortex, your executive functioning goes offline, you can't think your way out of fear. You can't think your way out of trauma. You can't think your way out of anything. So you have to shift your physiology. And the way I have clients do that is that, as a quick and easy process, I don't believe you have to sit there for an hour going like this. Really, like, I don't have an hour when I'm in fight or flight.
I've done it. I've hired a coach, 6 months of it. It wasn't quite enough, but it helped, ease the pain. Yeah.
It helps. It helps in the moment. And I love tapping and all of that. But I'm like you, I need something fast, because I don't notice I'm under stress until I've been there for a while, like a lot of other people.
That's the truth. Or I don't know, I'm suddenly gaining 5-10 pounds and bloated and my clothes aren't fitting until it's like really not
what's going on here. Exactly. And I experience the same thing. Isn't it funny how we teach what we need to really like get a handle on in this lifetime? That used to be my barometer of happiness. It was like, when I was happy, I was lighter and leaner and more fit and out, and out and about. And when I wasn't, one of the symptoms was, wow, I just gained 10 pounds and didn't see it coming. It doesn't have to be 100 pounds, 10 pounds, 15, 20 is, as significant. So here's what I teach my clients. You want me to show you? Because it's so easy. So you put your hand here, like at your hairline. Move your hand away and raise it up a bit. So you have to look at your pinky finger with your eyes just looking up. Let your eyes strain. And then as you drop your hand, breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. And drop your hand in front of your face. Breathe in. It's important that you breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in and blow out. And drop your hand all the way down. So you're just following the back of your hand with your eyes. Breathe in one more time through your nose. In, out. And now close your eyes. And take one more breath in through your nose and breathe out. And that's it. So that's a little piece of it. We could do more and do more eye movement, but honestly, when I'm in fight or flight, just like you probably, I need something where I can breathe and go, I'm not in a Zen moment where I can sit and meditate, and I can't do all that, right? It's like I can barely put my shoe on. So if I can do something like that, it's really important though to breathe out.
Okay.
Because when we're shallow breathing under stress, we're increasing the CO2 in our blood, which is the hyperventilation, right? So when you breathe out, you blow off that CO2, which automatically decreases your pulse rate and your blood pressure. And then you can think again and make decisions.
There was
I
definitely
think
a shift. I felt like there were, I don't know exactly what but neurologically almost, it just kind of,
it does.
got me out of that pattern. It just kind of changed the pattern for me.
Yeah, and it really works. And when I teach it on webinars and live streams, it's funny because I'll be teaching, and how when we're teaching, we're like da 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 da. We get all excited about what we teach, and then I'll teach that process, and then I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I'm like, I think I needed that more than you did.
And I like what you said about the CO2, because the reality is, I think, and I get people check in when I'm doing my trainings, and they're not really breathing down there into their belly. It's like shallow chest breathing. So it is important to reoxygenate, get blood to the brain, get movement too, to help you
Yeah.
when you're in those moments.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I mean, I know everyone knows this. I'm not telling anybody anything they haven't heard over and over again. I just would say I'm also a testament to this, that if you can only do one thing to make yourself feel better, and that's all we want, right? Like, why would you want to heal trauma? So I can feel better. Why would you want to lose weight? So I can feel better. Why do you want to get out of debt? So I can feel better. Why do you want to get divorced? So I can feel better, right? If you can't control all of those things, the one thing you can do is get outside and walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's like everyone's like, well, of course, everybody knows that. True, but when we're under stress, when we're experiencing depression, anxiety, and any type of mental state like that, it's the last thing we think of to do.
Exactly. And I definitely teach people to look at orient. So, okay, the tiger's not chasing me. Let your eyes wander. Look at the mountains. Look at the trees. Look at the birds. And just really, that brings you into that moment. And in that moment, you are safe. So one time, we might just have to have one moment at a time, 1 hour at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah. And that's a key word that you just used, Phaedra, and that is safe. And I think that's what's happening with trauma, and that's really the part of the under of weight gain, and for a lot of people, the inability to lose weight, or the trend of losing weight and then hurry up and gain it back. Mm-hmm. Lose weight and hurry up and gain it back, because that sense of safety is now in question. And that it can be triggered by weight loss. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a whole important approach to weight gain and weight loss that should not be ignored.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk then about your experience with helping people through emotional eating. Mm-hmm. Partially, back in 2008, after my car accident, I found more of the paleo approach, eating more natural whole foods, because I had so much inflammation in my body as it was healing from a broken leg and a broken spine. So I said, I need to change how I'm eating. And I do feel sometimes this internal struggle where, well, everybody else is eating pizza and everybody else is eating this or that or having sandwiches, but I knew that those foods were inflammatory. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a challenge for me to handle that. So what mindset pieces can you offer our listeners today when
Yeah, well, that's a good one. And I will tell you, my approach is not as soft as some. And the reason that is because I've seen firsthand in my own family what the results are of wanting to be like everyone else, right? Well, first of all, look around. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to be like everyone else? I know for myself, and I think this is true for my clients, is that I am not physiologically or genetically designed to eat any other way than whole food, as natural as I can get, as unprocessed as possible, because my body responds like yours did with extreme amounts of inflammation. I'll get anxiety or anxiousness that is very hard to live with, and lack of sleep. And so I just have to decide for myself, and this is what I share with my clients, like, you have to decide what you want more. Like, what do you want most right now?
Let's pause for a minute there. Yeah, what do you want most right now? And really pause and stop the busy to go in and ask yourself that and sit with it until it comes up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the slowing down. Um, that's why, I mean, my clients don't have to journal if they don't want to. Some people are very resistant to that, but it is handy to have a notebook around with a pen, so that when you're in those moments of like, oh my God, I just really want to go get chips. So of course, I don't recommend people have things that are obviously going to cause weight gain and poor health in their house, right? Like, it'd be like a smoker having cigarettes in the house. You go, that's kind of crazy, because eventually you're going to smoke, right?
And don't go to the store hungry, because I did that the other day. And I bought my sweet and salty popcorn
Uh,
and a chocolate bar, and I know better.
well,
Chocolate bar is long gone by now.
and perfectionism is also dangerous, right? Like, I really make sure that my clients have, we call them celebration days, not cheat days. You have to have some celebration built into the plan. And if you build it in to the plan, and it's coming, you're actually choosing it. Right. So then it's no longer emotional eating, binging, or I got triggered and I did this thing. That's a very disempowering, out of control mind. It's a mindset, really. But if you build it in and you already know, like, oh, 7 days from now, like my husband and I on Saturday, it was like Monday afternoon after his father passed away, we drove over to the coast and we had clam chowder, San Francisco sourdough bread, crab salad, and we finished it off with, it was the most amazing, it's pumpkin season, right? Pumpkin bread pudding with chocolate and pumpkin seeds on it.
Yum.
But we made a decision. We're having all of this deliciousness because food is nurturing. And I will tell you, like, there's a statement out there that drives me nuts, because I think that this is problematic for people. And you'll hear it especially in the fitness world, more in the fitness world than the health world that we're in. What is it? I don't live to eat. I eat to live.
Right.
I don't use food. Food is fuel. Food is fuel. It's like, I don't know anyone who food is just fuel and you get no you should get satisfaction out of eating. It's an oral, it's your mouth. The very first thing you did as a baby was eat, and suckle, and it's like, but this whole, like, I don't eat to live, I live to eat, or whatever it is. It's just like, come on, we're not robots, we're human beings. And it's not a contest, right?
Right, exactly. And I was doing so well. Well, I thought, here I am. Okay, I go out to a restaurant or a little place to go get some takeout, and I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to get a lean piece of meat and maybe some hummus or whatever. But I find that there's so much stuff hidden in there, and those fake oils and stuff. So I've really recently, I'm so grateful for it. A woman locally here where I live, she had stage 4 cancer. She healed herself through food, and now she created a company where she does meal delivery. They knock on my door, hand me a bag of food for half the week. They come twice a week. And the first time I had the first meal, I was a little disappointed because it was bland. But my taste buds were so used to the places that I take out from. And so I then started getting into that. I was very excited. I was losing weight in all those places I wanted to lose weight in. And I really felt it. And this was an easy way for me to be able to incorporate this into my life. And then, though, there is this essence I'm having, and I'm experiencing it this week, is self-sabotage. a little bit
Mm.
of where I went out and I had pizza and I had gelato last weekend. And then the other night I had a dessert, a big dessert with all this kind of sugary stuff. And I bloated again and I feel it. And I kind of lost that. So it's just interesting dynamic of how I did that, how I chose that. And I'm still just kind of interesting. I'm not judging so harshly, but there was this part of me that was just compelled to go towards the food that wasn't healthy. And here I was on this good way, but it wasn't just one, what did you call it? Celebration day. It was two and then another one midweek. I had the food in the fridge and I said, "Oh, let me get that frozen pizza out." You know? So
Yeah,
what, like, it's that whole mindset piece too. Of
it is. And also it's brain chemistry. It's also brain chemistry, right? Like
hormones
it,
too. And
and hormones, but the brain chemistry piece is it's like a right, carbohydrates and the carbohydrate sugar fat salt combo. It's like it's specifically designed to give you the same effect that an opiate would, right?
that's right.
You get a and sometimes I think when we're really focused on getting healthy, getting fit, staying fit, sometimes that in itself creates tension.
True.
And
Because it's
then
depressing, right? It's like, oh, I'm losing weight. I don't have to struggle to get in these jeans anymore. This is kind of weird. I like it, but it's.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and then that's a perception piece too. You know, if I were working with you, we'd be looking at, is there a possibility that there's a secondary gain to keeping the weight on?
Deep.
Right.
That's
We
deep.
talked about the safety. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there a secondary gain? Because so often, of course, people, I mean, I have clients who, they have 80, 90, 100 pounds they want to lose. And they'll come in the front door and they're like, and I mean the virtual front door, not the little front door anymore, but they'll come to the front door and they're so committed and they are like, this is it. I'm completely committed to losing the weight this time. Now, if someone has lost a significant amount of weight and gained it back multiple times in their life, right away we look at, where's the secondary gain? Not is there, where is the secondary gain? And sometimes, I mean, I work with husbands and wives together. And sometimes there's this dynamic with husbands and wives where one will feel like if they're losing weight faster that they're abandoning their partner, leaving them behind, or somehow there's a threat to the relationship. And of course this is all up in the wheelhouse, right? None of it's really real, but you can't ignore the fact that this is a dynamic that's happening, because I'll have a married couple working with me together and they're doing awesome, right? We have a couple right now who's lost 100 pounds together since May. And what is it now?
Wow. It's
6 months. Yeah.
December. Yeah.
They've lost 100 pounds together. So now is when it gets a little dicey, right? Like we kind of really have to keep an eye on what's this dynamic going to be like, and is it going to shift? Because there's a reason that they gained weight together and that they lost weight together in the past and gained it back together. Like it's like a partnership, right? It is a partnership. So the idea of secondary gain for your audience, if you've been struggling with losing weight and it's not like, I mean, I have yet to work with someone who physically cannot lose weight. And I mean fat, not just weight. I've yet to see that happen in 20 now I think I've been doing this for 25 years. Look at, where is the secondary gain for this weight? How am I benefiting from it? Because that secondary gain is a competing priority.
Mm. And also with, I think, a lot of traumas too, especially sexual abuse or
Mhm.
just physical and verbal abuse as a child, then there's this put on weight to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, put on weight to protect, or put on weight to become invisible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is not an uncommon scenario, for women. I mean, look at the Me Too movement in the last couple of years. It exposed the reality of, and I'm not a huge like feminist, but I mean, women have been objectified forever, and they still are, and we still are. And it's like the honest truth is, you're a lot less visible when you're carrying an extra 50 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm. So do you have any tips or strategies for those moments of, maybe emotional eating? You get home, you're tired, you're stressed. I know a lot of people like to medicate with wine or alcohol. What can they do to prepare, plan ahead of time to help not sabotage, so to speak?
Well, I think the two things that I gave you, use this process, right? Go back and watch it, use it. I think I even teach it in my 3-part video series that I'm giving as a free gift.
Okay, yep, the
I
feminine
think it's in
fat
there.
loss. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in there. And then the other thing is, before you get into that routine of, I'm home, pour the wine, sit down, like we get into, it's a deeply ingrained habit, right? Break that with a pattern interrupt of, make sure your tennis shoes, your walking shoes are right at the door. So when you come in, you put your briefcase down, you put your work down, you put your purse down, you put your stuff down. And right there, you put your walking shoes on and you turn around and you go right back out the door and you walk for 15 minutes. And I'm not saying you won't come back and then pour a glass of wine, but at least you're starting to interrupt that pattern and create a new neural network. Nice. And over time, you might find that you go back, you go outside and you take a 30-minute walk and you come back in, and lo and behold, the next morning you're like, I didn't even have wine last night, and I didn't even think about it. Mm-hmm. Isn't that better than like white knuckling it and going,
yes,
can't have it. I'm not going to have it.
All right. Any other tips you teach your clients?
Well, I teach them a lot, but I think that those two are, if you could do those two, and you could start to do that consistently and just like really implement it. Sometimes people want like a lot of tools. And it's like, why don't we take one or two and actually do them? Right? Like, let's just really do them consistently over time, about 14 days to 26 to 28 days, using that process every day and going for a walk every day. I would love to hear from people and find out, give yourself a score today, like on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being no stress, no, I'm good, I'm in Hawaii, I'm on the beach. 10 being like the most amount of stress and anxiety you've ever experienced. Like, what is your number today? Give yourself a number. Like, maybe it'll be like a 7 or an 8. And then like 28 days from now, after doing that process every day and taking a 15-minute walk every day, reassess and ask yourself 28 days later, what number am I today? And I'd be shocked if people didn't see a significant drop in that number. I like everyone to be under 5.
Okay. Good. Feels good. I love it. So get those tennis shoes ready. We're out the desert. The summer is over, so I can now go outside again. And I love it. I do have beautiful areas to walk, and sometimes I need a change. So I'll get in the car, drive to a pretty park with a lake or something to go around, and just also pattern interrupt that way as well. Or just even going, and there's just so much that you can do. And you can go hike, you can walk, just really get your body moving as well. It's so important, especially after sitting in a desk all day.
Yes, and we all get stuck there, you know.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was awesome. You're just such a great friend and a mentor to me too. You've always given me such words of wisdom. I appreciate it. And you do have the Feminine Fat Loss video series. Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
Yes, sure. So the 3-part Feminine Fat Loss video series does, like I mentioned, address weight gain at the source. And I talk about the physiology of weight loss and actually give you like a how to get it going again. And then another video is on the emotions and the energy of weight gain. And I believe the third video is either shifting self-perception or it's the pain of weight gain. So I'm not sure which topic I talked about in that third video, but we cover a lot of aspects of weight gain and weight loss that are so important.
All right, great. So any more words of tying it in together? I know you've had like many deaths in your family this year. It's been real challenging. And I see you living what you preach. You're always eating healthy. You have snacks ready to go. You're out there moving, exercising.
Yeah, and let me be honest though, and very transparent about it. It's because I have to. It's and I mean that in all the best ways. I mean it because this is how I have to take care of myself, because there was a time in my life when I lost my dad and my mom very close together. This year, we've lost 4 family members in a year. Back in 2000, it was 2008 and 2010, we lost my dad. And that was, lo and behold, remember I was talking to you about the debt thing, and that was all going on at the same time. My mom and dad both passed away.
See, and those are coupled events that really can like I think we talked about, what do you want to talk about? And it's like that emotion can come up even to this day, 10 years later.
Yeah, yeah. And my strategy, Phaedra, back then was red wine every night, Cheez-Its, and hummus, no exercise. And I was a chiropractor going into my chiropractic practice every day and just like not walking my talk. And, I never went to my practice hungover or drunk, but it was like not feeling vitality myself and not feeling energy myself. I was deep in grief. And so this time, after when I turned, I won't go into that, but I made a very powerful decision a couple of years later that, my health, my mental well-being before all else, before I will go off and help, before I will ever, I used to be a rescuer, a fixer. And now it's like, hey, like today, I mean, it's Monday, my father-in-law passed away. And today my husband and I, we went out for a 2-hour hike up a very steep hill to get our blood flowing and lungs moving and remember, like, we're alive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep living.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your wise words, your honesty, and just for sharing how you overcame such adversity too.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. It reminds me, I'm like, wow, I'm a badass. No.
No, you are, but like we all have had these events happen to our lives, and we'll eventually get through. We eventually do get through. We learn from them. You use your experience and are teaching others. I use my experience. I'm teaching others. I have so much to live for, so much that I want to do. And I just keep moving forward. There's this inner strength, this inner fire. And I hope that we can instill that in people. They're not alone, and they could pull through these challenging situations too.
Yeah. And you know what I love? Let me share one more thing with you, because I think you'll like this too, Phaedra. It's the definition of resilience is not just the ability to bounce back, but it's the ability to bounce back better.
And isn't that the truth? Bounce back better. Well, thank you so much. You're wonderful. And I appreciate you sharing so much of yourself today.
Thank you, Phaedra.
Wow, that was so great. We all have had our own challenges, our own story, adversity in life, and we all come through. And I love what she said is like, let's heal, let's move forward, let's come out of that more resilient, but also even better. And I hope that this interview today and this series as a whole can help recharge your life and help make your life so much better. And if you like these interviews and you feel like you need to keep listening to them to just keep you on track to recharge your life, you could consider purchasing this series. And with that series purchase, you're going to get a whole bunch of bonuses, including mapping trauma in your body. It's a 5-day training that I've done where we pull out different pieces that perhaps in your life have happened to you and help you put the pieces of your hidden trauma puzzle together. And last, we'll get a session with me, a 45-minute session where you and I can talk and connect and help you put the pieces of your puzzle together. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next interview.